do. We bring a new perspective, talk, portrayal, and perception.
Reflect on many topics, friendship, love, life lessons.
The goal is to get you thinking, so tune in to the show.
We're immune to all the trolling, leave the comments below.
Hello. We are back with another episode of Trollproof. I am Zach.
And I'm Asta, and I seem to be here quite often.
Yeah. You know, what do we know? We might be filling in for a show. This guy's gone.
I don't know.
Where is he?
Who knows? We haven't seen him in days.
He had on a striped shirt yesterday, so I mean, he might be playing into this where am I?
Where's Waldo?
Yeah. Definitely striped. It was a striped tank top, I mean, in the Shield fashion. But yeah, diving into it today, what was on your mind? What topics would something that you may have this week about?
So recently, I got into a discussion. Let's call it a discussion. Keep it civil.
Okay.
With a friend about his prioritization of his girlfriend and their relationship, and how maybe there was a mismatch between how he felt and the actions that he was doing to maybe sustain the relationship or not sustain the relationship. There was just a lack of effort that was visible to basically everyone around them. So I got into an argument with him about whether it's important when you're in a relationship to prioritize that person sometimes over your goals. What do you think about that?
Interesting. Over your goals. And wait, because, well, in the relationship, I feel as though that person should be one of your goals.
Right.
I mean, should be. Yeah, I mean, should be there should be an ultimate goal. It's unfortunate, I feel as though, like, in a capitalistic society, and I hate to trash capitalism all the time.
I mean, I do it.
But it's in a capitalistic society. I mean, people are kind of taught that, you know, you must attain this career status and make this money and, you know, do this, and this, you know, get here and continue to strive and excellence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, a lot of times there's a lot of pressure to do that. But you can't let that pressure to do that, you know, make you miss out on your, I don't want to call it your most primitive.
It is kind of the most
but,
primitive, like,
you know,
except like when you look at the hierarchy of needs,
yeah.
It's like food,
yeah.
shelter,
yeah.
intimacy.
Yeah. So I mean, you if this is something that you really want, I mean, you of course have to show that you really want it. I mean, even if that does mean that you may waver on your course a little.
Right.
Of course, you do want to maintain your course, but if you may not be on the fast track, you may have to figure out how to ride the slow train. You know,
Yeah.
You know, it may be difficult, but you know, if you care about something, you know, if you care about what you're going to do, you know, with whatever else you're working with, then you can learn the slow route.
Right.
You know?
And I think there's also this excuse I hear all the time, just like in general and out in the world, is I'm young. This is my time to be achieving. And I don't understand why people think that's mutually exclusive, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm pretty young. I'm fairly busy, you know, got school, got work. But that doesn't mean I have to step back from relationships. And it's not just romantic relationships, but also friendships. I don't have to get so caught up in my own world that I can't make time for someone else, right? Because especially with my friend, I have very high achieving friends. Like, I'm a slacker compared to them. But they, once in a while, I'll get I'm sorry, I haven't talked to you in months, right? Because everything just got so busy and I really needed to focus on that. And I get it. I'm like, I understand you need to focus on that. But there's also don't lose your humanity because you gotta read 500 textbooks.
Yeah. And to speak on that, I'm guilty of that. You know,
everyone is.
I'm guilty of being that person. And I guess to speak into that psychology, I don't necessarily know what it is, but sometimes I guess I could say that you kind of fear that you would get off course.
Right.
You know, you kind of fear that if you aren't completely, you know, engulfed in your, you know, in being on course, that, you know, you could become completely engulfed in being off course. So you're like, look, if I'm going to be one extreme, if I'm going to be one extreme, I'm going to be this one.
The productive one.
Yeah. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to go on that, hey, oh yeah, my friends, we have good times, and then I want to always have good times.
Gotcha.
I don't want to do that, you know, so I want to, you know, I'm going to
find the balance.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But I don't know, I'm one of those people that just loves people. I'm like, wow, I don't know, like I very recently met you, and I'm like, you're cool, like, cool, let's hang out, right? That's just who I am as a person, and people have always been a priority in my life most of the time over my work. There are some nights where I'm like, I have 3 tests tomorrow, I cannot have human interaction right now, but it has never gone on longer than 2 days.
Definitely.
It's like even when I was studying for the MCAT, which granted I could have studied for harder,
Mm-hmm.
but I studied enough, you know, like I'm still going to medical school and I didn't have to compromise on my social life for it. But I think it's just our priorities get all screwed up, as you said, because of capitalism, because we're expected to be this constantly productive machine.
Pretty much.
That's just absurd.
Unfortunately, we had a death in the staff. The camera support system passed away on us a little earlier.
It's okay. Nothing we can't handle.
Yeah, but we're back.
But yeah, so people think about relationships as, and I'm not saying that relationships aren't time consuming, because good God they are, right? They consume your time, they consume your money, they consume your heart, they just take up everything, right? But that doesn't mean it's not worth putting as much effort into as you do into your other things, like your academic goals, or whether it's you're starting a business.
And I guess a lot of people look at it like, relating shouldn't be this difficult or shouldn't be difficult. However, you know, when you're an individual and someone else is an individual, you're not necessarily going to always be on the same page and be aligned on every aspect of life. So, I mean, there are some that are going to need some sort of alignment. And granted, I mean, I'm sure in like a lot of those situations, the guy's argument, and I'm not advocating for men here, you know, but the guy's argument is like, hey, you know, I'm trying to do this so that in the future we are,
better.
We are good, we're stable. But the woman has no real assurance of this, no tangible assurance that, you know, this is actually going to be attained. You know, so she's just looking at it like, hey, I mean, yeah, that sounds great. You know, and if I had a crystal ball and I could see into the future with this being there, then,
right.
You know, amazing. But
first of all, I feel like you're a little unaware of how women.
that was wrong. My bad.
No. That's completely fair that there is no tangible, like, proof that this is what's going to happen in the future, right? But I think that's because there's a lack of communication, and not because we need like a 5-year plan of where you're going with your life, right? If you communicate effectively with me, you're like, okay, all right, like, Asta, I have a presentation in the morning, and then next week I have this big deadline, so I can't talk to you for a week. I'll be like, that's fine, like, just let me know. Like, that, I think that's where everything falls apart, is the communication, because everyone gets into their head about like, oh, what is the other person gonna think about this, right? If I'm like, oh, I can't talk to you today, like, are they gonna take it the wrong way?
And that's one thing. I mean, just like you said, that's one thing I recently, like, you know, kind of learned in that way. But when a woman says communication, you know, sometimes as a guy, at least I know sometimes with myself, I would be looking like, okay, communication. The communication is such a large,
category.
Such a large category. It's,
Yeah.
And the word communication is so broad.
Yeah.
But what I've kind of recently learned is that a lot of times communication can mean prefacing your actions.
Yes.
You know, and instead of saying communication, I think maybe prefacing your actions could be like said, because like,
it's like I just need signposts.
Yeah, like I would hear communication like, what the hell are you talking about? We
Right.
talk every day about everything.
Gotcha.
You know, but you know, prefacing your actions as you know, as a guy is like very, you know, very important. You should preface what you're doing, and you know, just kind of be let known why you're doing it, and you know, learn what she's doing and what she needs, and you know, maybe not why she needs it, because that's not, the why is not really that important.
That's interesting, because like I think, at least can't speak for every woman out there obviously, but I'm wired in a way that I didn't realize that I do preface my actions, but I very much preface my actions. I'm like, this is what I'm doing or will be doing, and this is why. I always give a reason, because I want the other person to understand where I'm coming from. And I think the easiest way to do that is explaining your actions before they happen and not after, because...
And that was a big problem for me a lot. I usually, like, I never really, like, prefaced a lot of things that I did. Sometimes I'm not impulsive, but I'm normally sometimes just, like... You're
spontaneous.
Yeah, just do things, you know.
And that should be fine. Like, I don't think relationships should be something that you like need an itemized list for, right? Like the presidential logs where no, good God, no, that's something's wrong. If your partner needs a day-to-day, like every minute account of your life, that's just weird. But spontaneity is something that should be valued in a relationship, even if it's not together, even if it's individually, it should be valued. I think curiosity and spontaneity go hand in hand, and that's something that should be fostered. But even with spontaneous action, there's like, although you can't preface it, you can still share it. You know what I mean? Like, communication doesn't have to be this tell me how you feel constant. I don't want to hear, like, honestly, I don't want to hear. But if you make me feel secure and I never have to guess what your feelings are about me, then I will literally not question anything you do, right? But if I have to be like, I don't really know if he likes me, right? I, first of all, don't care enough usually to ask that question. I'm like, if you don't, just leave. Yeah. Right, there's the door. I'll go find someone else. You go find someone else. But if it's someone you like, they shouldn't have to guess what your feelings are towards them.
Definitely.
Right, that's what I think of when I think communication. It doesn't have to be verbal. It can just be actions. It's like, oh, you remember to have this random thing today that basically I forgot about, you know? Like, it's the little things, and it's feeling cared for and feeling wanted. That's a bigger part of communicating than actual, like, well, I'm sitting right now, and then I will get up and I will eat a strawberry.
Yeah,
and, you know,
yeah, pretty much. It's like, I mean, that can definitely get really mundane, you know. And it would drive you crazy. At least it would drive someone to be crazy.
Yeah.
In fact, it's like, okay, Zach is walking to the bathroom now. Please.
It's like the Truman Show.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, if I wanted someone to constantly narrate my life, I would hire a narrator and not like get a partner.
Will be in approximately 3 minutes, give or take. Confidence interval of 17.2 seconds.
Confidence. I came with your statistician self. But yeah, I think like people get really afraid of communication because it is such a broad term. And for me, one of the big things that I look for in people, and this is all people, is emotional intelligence. Because men are socialized not to think about their emotions. So they cannot, for the life of them sometimes, like even identify what they're feeling. I'm like, here are some words. Pick one. Right? And it's tragic that we have to do that, but it is something that you have to do because there's families that are very focused on providing the emotional language for like, oh, am I stressed today? Oh, am I anxious? Am I nervous? What's the difference between anxiety and nervousness, right? Things like that. But when you are in a relationship, which is, I would argue, the most emotional thing you can do, and you have to be like, well, I don't know my emotions, so how am I going to tell
Exactly.
you my emotions? And everything just falls apart.
And it's very important, especially when you're dealing with something so abstract,
Right.
as feelings. Feelings are incredibly abstract, and the words that describe them are pretty much all we have to communicate them outside of
Your brain.
Yeah. I mean, outside of the displays. I mean, I can make a face.
Mm-hmm.
You can make faces and you can do things, but outside of facial expressions and the words describing them, there's never going to be a true objective determination of your feelings.
Right.
You could watch some sort of movie or documentary or anything with like a group of people, and they could all be feeling
completely different emotions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to gauge who's what.
Right.
It's just
And there's this, speaking of documentaries, there's this documentary on Netflix called The Mask You Live In, and it talks about toxic masculinity and why there is such a lack of depth in relationships now, because for me to love someone, let's say, I have to be very cognizant of how I'm feeling about not only that person, but also who I am with that person. And I don't think that men ever, I don't know, obviously, because I'm not a man, you can correct me.
Okay.
But I don't know if men think like that, right? Like, do you think like, oh, do I like who I am when I'm around this person? Because we all change our personalities depending on who we're around.
I think men do think like that. I mean, I think men do think, whether or not they, have to filter themselves, or whether or not they can, they can be free around the person, whether they like, what they have to do. And they'll, at least, I don't know, myself, I'm very expressive of okay, yeah, I don't know, it just had a weird sound. Okay, there we go. No, but we're back. No, I'm very expressive of myself and my feelings especially when they're outside of the norm. Like if something happens that confuses me or something that I'm I'm on the fence about, I'm gonna
let
ask.
it known.
Yeah, I'm gonna let it be known. Like I have to let it be known immediately. I'm like, look, this is weird. And I don't understand why this is happening, but hopefully you can explain to me what's happening here. And I just need something, something that makes sense, because but sometimes you don't get that,
No, not at all.
But that's me, but I can't speak for all the guys.
Right, and that's a very logical thought process. It's like, I don't understand. You're the other party involved. Maybe you understand, so share the knowledge.
I would think so. I mean, that's what I try to do, but
It doesn't work.
no.
Maybe one of us will figure it out eventually.
Yeah, but I don't know if guys do guys generally do that? Like,
So in my experience, I'm usually told the negative emotions, right? Like if I say something that rubbed someone the wrong way, they'll let me know, which I'm grateful for because I can check myself for next time. But it's also like, I'm a very sarcastic person.
me too.
Yeah, I was warned. But for what happens is like, sarcastic banter. Sometimes it can go a little far, right? And if that's your daily means of communication, it can go a little awry. And well, do you actually like me, or are you just gonna hate on me the entire time, right? So I have a friend who we not romantically involved, just a friend. But that was our form of communication, was just like pure, unfiltered sarcasm all the time. And 3 months after we became friends, he was like, do you actually even like me as a person? Because I can't tell.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're so right, because I never shared those, and you can't really have positive sarcasm, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's I don't share that with you. And that's what I've seen in men is they'll tell you when something's wrong, or like, oh, I don't like that you did this, or I don't like that you wore that, or blah blah blah. But it's never like, you know what, like, you had this presentation today and I know you killed it, and like positive affirmations and validation is often just held back because you're like, well, I don't know the reason, honestly, why it's held back, but
because guys typically don't do that with each other. I mean, I know you have to. I mean, I do know you have to do that, of course, when you're with a woman. I mean, that's something that you should do. But I mean, with each other, guys, you kind of, it's, I guess toxic masculinity is what's coined as the term for it. But I don't want to call it that. I mean, I'm going to call it, like, I mean, I just think that guys kind of like, it's unsaid. You hold a high expectation for your friends and one another. Like, so for example, if I have a friend who's very good at whatever he may do, whatever his craft is, I expect him to do good at it.
Right.
I mean, you're my friend. I hold you in high regard.
Yeah.
So I expect good of you.
But does that mean you don't hype him up regardless?
If he would have to do extremely excellent. Because I'm going to let you know that just like your father would be. I mean, at least, I don't know, to me, like, I would, my picture of a father, it's like, he's going to reward nothing but excellence. Like, I'm not going to reward mediocrity.
Yeah.
Like, and I wouldn't want my son, I mean, you do mediocre, you can do mediocre any day. Who cares?
Do better.
Yeah, do better. Like, don't do anything less than the best. You're not getting any reaction out of me. But if you do something great, phenomenal, you might get a do it again.
Pat on the back, right?
Yeah.
That's very interesting to me because for me, I am a very loving person, like, to a fault. And I constantly hype up my friends, like, all of them, right? Like, that's just what I do. Yeah. I will text people there's 3 people that I text every morning with just, like, you are amazing, you're beautiful, you're intelligent, and you're going to conquer the world. Not because they need it. They have conquered the world. Like, they do not need that, and they don't need it from me. But it's just something I do because I hold my friends in very high regard as well, but I still like encouraging. It's just like, I don't, like, if you do mediocre, that's okay. I'm going to keep encouraging you till you reach that excellence. Like, I don't have to wait for you to reach that excellence for me to commend you on what you're doing, because it's incremental. Like, you don't wake up one day and just do amazing things, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and then I guess it goes into maybe the psychology of the genders, like, because honestly, if someone's like, I mean, if it were, I mean, maybe with a woman, I'd understand it because it's coming from her, her perspective and how she views things. So I would take it and appreciate it, and like, say thank you for giving me that. But if I were to get that from a guy, like, what are you talking about, man? It's weird. Stop sending me this weird stuff. Like, and just even normally, like, with stuff like that, I guess it's supposed to be encouragement, but, like, I don't know, just for me, it would just be, like, weird.
Fair enough. And I do think it's a lot of socialization. Like, if you look at Instagram, this is my favorite example, is if I look at any of my Instagram posts, I know that my best friend has commented wife on it. Like, I just know. Like, anytime, it's not even like she hasn't seen, like, she approves it before I put it out, but she will comment that regardless of what it is, even if I look ugly or dumb or whatever, right? Even if my face is not in it, she'll comment wife. And there will be, like, at least 4 comments by girls that are just like, slay, wife, like, you're beautiful. Yeah. But you don't see that on, like, men's Instagram.
Well, because the thing is, I mean, and I'm not sexist, but just
anyone that has to say
I mean, I'm prefacing my actions.
Oh, okay, okay, we're learning today.
No, but just kind of, I mean, just to dive into this, if people can take this in context.
Right.
But women need a little more confirmation than men. And there are examples. Just pick 4 or 5 of your friends, male, 4 or 5 of your friends, female. Go on their Facebook or Instagram and just see how many pictures they have. Just count the number, the sheer number. I mean, I guarantee you that the average girl is going to outnumber the guy by at least 3 or 4 times the number of pictures.
Interesting.
And is it because, you know, the girls are doing more things than the guys?
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it's, you know, that's kind of, I mean, and if they are, I don't think it's 3 times as many things or 4 times as many things. You know, it's like, I don't think that women have more days in the week than guys.
We
have,
might. It's one of our special powers.
But, you know, I just think that the need to validate this event or validate, you know, yourself in this event or how you looked in this event is more prevalent in females than it is than males.
I would agree with you, and I don't think that's a sexist comment, by the way, because there is, I would say, a greater pressure, social pressure on women to be a certain way. Like, you're supposed to always look good, you're supposed to be smart, you need to know how to carry yourself, you need to be a boss, but like not come across as one, right? Like, if you show leadership quality and you overtly show leadership qualities, it gets a little...
The Hillary Clinton paradox.
Exactly. So you're supposed to be everything good and do your best, but be humble about it. Which is fine. Humility is a good trait, but you're also not supposed to celebrate anything. So what we get reduced to is things like Instagram. It's like, so I don't do 3 times as many things as men, probably not, but I have been posting from this one vacation I took, like the beginning of May, and I think the last 4 posts have been from that vacation, and it's not necessarily, well, consciously it's not because I need validation on them, right? Doesn't mean that when I look at the likes I don't get happy. And I will admit, I have no problem admitting to that. But I think that women have been groomed in a way that every step they take, every decision they make has to be validated. Because there's such a specific mold you're supposed to follow that you need constant checkpoints of like, am I doing this right? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Does society think that I'm doing okay?
That's interesting. So the societal pressures. So I mean, and it's funny because it comes around, it loops back around. Like societal pressures, like have, you know, are so strong on women that, you know, you have to be all these things and then still be humble. And then, you know, with the guy, you have to do all these things and then still, you know, and still like, you know, relate and still have all this, but still be this ultimate provider and everything.
Right.
It's interesting that we are all affected so much by society that, you know, we can't necessarily, I mean, are we blinded by that? You know, are we all blinded by that societal pressure that, you know, to the point where it makes it difficult for us to even relate with one another? To
a certain extent, I would say yes, and especially through social media, because what I put on my social media is the most positive things in my life, right? I don't put my negative days on there. It's like, oh, I woke up today and I didn't want to move out of bed because I didn't have energy. Like, I'm not going to put that on Facebook, right? I'm going to put, I have been working on this and this is what I've learned from, right? You're presenting your best self, and that makes it really hard to relate to other people because there's this pedestal that everyone's creating for themselves, and it's like, well, you're just out there like doing all the things in the world. I don't know how you find time for it. I don't think I'm worthy of your presence or of your time because you're doing X, Y, and Z, and obviously you have it all together, right? And I can't relate to someone who has it all together because I don't have it all together. But in reality, no one has it together. We just don't seem that way.
And it's so funny to me that people like really evaluate social media as an effective documentary of everyone, of others' lives.
Right.
You know, like, so people follow it like, oh, you know what, she's doing so good and she's always so perfect. Like, what do you mean she's always so perfect? You just look at pictures that she takes,
right,
she puts on there. How does that make her always so perfect? Well, every picture she takes, she puts up, she's always so perfect. Like,
so you don't think that like 7 filters and 20 minutes went into that?
Exactly. Like, I don't get the correlation there. Like, you know, I don't get, I don't get how those things connect. Like, but it's funny that it's become such a large staple in our culture that it's not even viewed objectively.
Right.
People kind of get lost in it.
Yeah, I think I think the connection is just the constant presence of it in our lives. Like, I didn't take my phone when I went on vacation. I was completely disconnected. I would once in a while use my mom's phone to get on Messenger and let my friend know I was alive,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was it. I didn't look at Instagram. No, like, I lost all my Snapchat streaks, which slightly sad about. But, like, it's such a trip. Like, that's the whole, like, why does it matter? Like, sure, I had a Snapchat streak for almost 365 days, but who cares? Like, I still talk to that person every day, right? Like, there's a streak in real life going on. But, yeah, I forgot my original point.
Good.
It was there. It's gone.
It's all good because
Hi.
I mean, we still have. I mean, there's still a lot that can be talked about on this subject because
Right.
we have 3 cuts in this video already.
All the batteries.
that's due to the batteries, though.
That's true.
But
Because I watched y'all's. I was telling him this. I watched y'all's the other relationship one, and at one point, one of you said, "Well, when you think about it from the other perspective," and then you just both started laughing. So like, wait, we don't know the other perspective.
I remember that. That was funny. That was very funny because we really didn't have any like inkling into the the other perspective, and we both had like a lot of the same downfalls.
Yeah. These are our flaws. Yeah, and honestly, like, I probably share some of them because I'm just a female version of a show. But yeah, it's interesting how it's interpreted by different people because I don't know, tell me one of your downfalls. Just push you on the spot.
Okay. Yeah, let me see. One of my downfalls is that, I guess that the whole the sarcasm thing. I mean, I speak in sarcasm, and that was. I guess that was one of the points that I think I was gonna talk about before, like the battery cut off too. And just to kind of circle back. When you do speak sarcasm and you speak it daily,
right?
You kind of become temporarily oblivious to the fact that some people don't speak sarcasm and aren't fluent in it, and by any means,
right?
So, and you'll notice because you'll be having you'll say something or you'll hear someone say something that's hilarious, and you'll see people who are not laughing. And you're like, wait a minute,
you didn't interpret it the way I did.
Wait a minute, this was funny. No. But and that's a problem, and it's something that you have to be cognizant of. You have to constantly remind yourself, hey, what I'm saying, upon correct interpretation, would be laughed at.
With the right dictionary, you would get it.
But if you read this literally, what I'm telling you, if you read this literally, then you could be offended. And the fact that a large amount of people, do read things literally, then you have to kind of adapt your speaking pattern.
Right. So I do the same thing, right? But I think you could probably get away with more than I can because there's at least I do this all the time to justify men's actions is, oh, he's just oblivious, right? Whereas if I say something sarcastic, that's interpreted as mean I'm a bitch, right? Like, I don't get the benefit of the doubt that, oh, she probably didn't mean that it would be taken that way, but...
From some people. I guess it depends on who's receiving it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, of course it's going to depend on the receiver because, some people, and even the way that I'm going to word what I'm saying now if I could word this 2 different ways and I could be viewed 2 different ways by wording this. The way that I was going to originally word this.
Yes.
The way that I was going to originally word this is that I was going to say that some people are offended by everything and you're just going to offend people, and you can't help it. And that way it makes me seem like an a-hole.
I was gonna say.
But the adapted, corrected way to word that would be that we have to care about everyone. Okay, let me do it. No.
It's like, I really don't know where you're going. Deep breaths.
We have to care about everyone's feelings. Not everyone has the same feelings or same understanding and interpretation of what we're saying that we are intending to deliver. So we have to make sure that we approach situations as we would receive them and as any other could receive them.
That's a lot, though. Like, can you imagine having to like, you're having a conversation and you're about to say something and then you're like, let me conjure up the possible combination of experiences that this person has gone through before I make my statement.
Well, that's why I employ a tactic that also could also be communicated two ways. The first way, the most harsh way, what I would call is that I profile and judge people. The less harsh way of saying it is I try to understand how that person would interpret what I'm going to say based on previous conversations and interactions with that individual.
So there's a box, and then there's a box with a bow on it. Regardless, you're putting people. But no, I get it. Yeah. And the thing is, like, I don't think saying profiling that you profile and judge people is a harsh comment, because everyone does that. That's how you survive in the world. That's like an evolutionary tactic.
But people don't want to hear that.
True.
Like, so the thing is, people hate to admit it, but they like things sugar-coated.
Yes.
So the fact that I'm saying and I'm telling you that, yeah, I'm going to judge you and I'm going to profile you and then speak to you accordingly. Mm-hmm. People are like, wow, that was an a-hole comment. But the fact that people are doing it and not knowing they're doing it or not explaining that they're doing it, I mean, that's the same thing. It's just the fact that you're oblivious to it, or you can even be oblivious, you just don't want to face the reality of it. Yeah.
Because that's how I function. Like, when I be feeling like, are you worth my time? Let me figure it out real quick. Like, 5 conversations and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I just gotta know. I gotta know who I'm dealing with to determine how I'm going to communicate.
Yeah.
Because I can be free and raw. I can be a little more reserved. I can be a combination of both. I mean, especially if I need a little more data. I'm gonna just keep going and then,
right.
gather data.
You gotta see where the clusters are.
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, gonna just move to this direction because it isn't working being this way.
Right. That's fair.
You can't please everybody, but you can be neutral.
Like Switzerland.